almost everybody is going to have 3 catastrophes in their life. You may as well face fact. Maybe you're going to have more, but that's the average. And almost everybody isn't ready for it. And my job is to make sure my clients are. Barry Engel, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Tom?
Fantastic. Say hi to Woody.
Hello, Woody.
Hi, Barry.
So, Barry, tell us what's going on, man.
Well, there's a lot of interesting things going on. Listening to you talk just earlier, that's quite interesting. You're talking about the market and which way it goes. What people tend to not realize is that, sure, they might get a 5 or 6 return on something versus a 3% return over here. They try to avoid market losses, of course. They often don't focus on the fact that there's 100% tax out there, because we, of course, have to take into account tax rates when we're looking at our market gains or perhaps even losses, but we have to take into account tax rates. And they don't realize that there's a 100% tax rate that's called the litigation tax. And that's part of what we try to plan around. The basic idea is if somebody does get sued, they have one of those catastrophes that you were describing, they get sued and they lose, well, they lose the asset. There it goes, all of it, 100% tax. And then what's worse, people don't realize that if there's a gain inherent in that asset that they've lost, not only have they lost the asset, they get to pay tax on the gain element as well. So that's a very good reason why people should look at asset protection planning. Not only do they want to keep the assets, but they don't want to be subject to this resulting tax liability from what hurts worse, which is losing it to an adversary.
Holy cow! Yeah, 100. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's a liability tax. So if you're understanding what he just said, you want to avoid that tax at all costs, right, Barry?
You want to avoid that tax at all costs. It's considering it is really part of planning, and we focus on important things like, am I going to look at a 4% or a 6% return? Absolutely. But sometimes the forest and the trees and all that gets in the way, and people don't realize that there's a perhaps bigger issue to plan for, which is how do I make sure I keep this so that I enjoy all of my 4, 6, 8, 15% returns, and at the end of the day, have it and not subjected to this tax liability if it happens to be taken from me in litigation.
Wow, yeah. And so what do we do? They call you. We call you on the phone. We sit down. You take a look at everything, and you're basically looking at people's assets and figuring out the best place for those people to structure things so they're not going to get hit by that tsunami, right?
That's right, exactly. What we really do is sit down with people, look at how they currently hold assets, and we might simply rearrange how those assets are held, because the way that assets are held, or any given asset is held, determines its exposure one day if there is a suit. And there are certain ways to hold assets where assets are, nothing's completely protected, but darn near completely protected. And there are certain ways that people hold assets where they're darn near pretty fully exposed. So if we can move things around a little bit in terms of title or ownership, simply by that exercise, we can accomplish a whole lot in case the what if happens. And remember, as we spoke last time when I was on with you, a month ago or so, we're really planning for the what if here. And we hope the what if never happens. But if the what if happens and somebody doesn't have this in place, it's going to be too late to do this. So just like with an insurance policy, people have to put this in place today. We hope they never need it. But if they do, it's there, and they're going to sleep better at night. That's what it's all about. People like to sleep at night, you know.
Yeah, they do like to. I was going to say we got about less than a minute. Are there any particular kind of trends that you're seeing in either litigation or asset protection in the last couple of years?
Well, there certainly are, and let me hit those for you quickly because I'm aware of the time. First of all, I'd say that up to about 6 months ago, we were getting calls from people who were truly on the brink, and we had to turn them away. They were just on the edge financially with banks that were calling on them and loan guarantees that were being called. The last couple of months, we're seeing a different nature of caller. And it's people who are now rebuilding. It's people who have things squared away, and they're ready to reorganize so that if something like this happens again, they won't be in the same position. So the inquiries that we're getting are solid ones rather than people scrambling. Second, I would say as a trend, we're getting more calls from people who are motivated to call simply by a concern with the economy in general.
Hey, Barry,
and
I
the
gotta
decline
cut you.
of the dollar. And those
Barry, we gotta go. You are the greatest. We're gonna make a regular out of Barry Engel. I mean, he's that good. You need to listen to him. We'll be back right after this.